Hi everyone, we're once again back with a long overdue and long expected from my part vinyl update. Yes, everybody, I'm still doing these. I've obviously had a little bit in terms of, how shall I put things, priorities, shall we say, in terms of purchases recently. The house, and having to buy things to put in the house, like wardrobes, cupboards, washing machines, vacuum cleaners, all exciting, boring things that every household needs. But the siren call of vinyl was, of course, as always, too strong, and I could not resist, finally, over the past several months, in fact, building up enough things to really show off and talk about. So let's get into it, and I'm quite pleased with the stuff I've been picking up over the past few months. I've gotten some collections finished. I've started some. I'm getting a good place with some of these. So let's have a little look and see what I've been buying. Okay, first up, yeah, I know, Abba, me and Abba. It's kind of my thing. I'm not going to apologise for it. But there were some gaps in my studio albums collection. So we've got Ring Ring. I'll be honest with you, it's not my favourite ABBA record by a long stretch. It's definitely one of their weaker albums. It's got some decent tracks on it, but again, it's just one of these things that I really needed to just do to finish the collection, shall we say. And this, as you can see, is not even listed as ABBA because it was that early into their career. They kind of weren't calling themselves that at that time. Bjorn, Benny, Agnetha, Frida. So it wasn't even going by all the appropriate names to form ABBA, because at this point it's Babaf or Bafab or Bafba or Fababa. It doesn't really scan, does it? So obviously that's why I went with ABBA. But it's this weird sort of 1970s nightmare feel of the sort of picture with the woo, zoom, zoom, zoom like that. But no, it's a fine enough record. It's just, it's not a good one to start with the band if you're thinking about getting into them, because it's a little weak, but it's fine. It's still a necessary inclusion. And carrying it on, I had to get, of course, their most recent studio album of Voyage, which is, do you know what? It's actually pretty good. You've got these weird avatars in the inside as well. They look like they're out of Tron or something like that, which is kind of weird and freaky looking. But it's actually an okay record. It's okay. It's got a kind of cringe, weird little Christmas song, Little Things. I genuinely hate that song. I think it's bloody awful. But things like Don't Shut Me Down, which I believe was actually a demo from like one of their earlier studio albums, finally like properly recorded and done up for this album. That's a really, really good song. But as far as like last albums in a band's career go, it could do a lot worse than Voyage. It's very mid-tier though, but again, I wanted to complete the collection, so now I finally have every single ABBA album on studio LP, so hooray for me. Keeping things in the classic sense of things, we've got Boston's self-titled debut record. For me, Boston are a funny old band. I love this album. I think this is a fantastic album. It's spectacularly good. Obviously, most well known for More Than a Feeling, which everybody knows the song. But, I mean, pretty much every song is a banger, but I'll be brutally honest with you, I never much cared for anything past the debut album. None of it really scratched that kind of itch for me that the first one did, but this is a bona fide classic. It's a brilliant piece of, that sort of early 80s, or is it late in the 70s? Possibly late 70s. Yeah, 76, there we go. Mid to late 70s, sort of a hard rock kind of thing, and it really did sort of open up the floodgates for like this kind of music to become popular. And in a lot of ways, for me, it kind of paved the way for the sort of like hard rock we came to expect from the 1980s. It felt like a sort of a precursor to that, laying the foundations. Seminal album, brilliant stuff. I'm just not a huge fan of the band in general, but I love this record. Moving on, we have got the fabulous Kate Bush and Hounds of Love, which obviously is quite hard to get at a reasonable price these days, and you can thank Stranger Things for that. Because obviously, Running Up That Hill, A Deal with God, which was very, very popular in that particular TV show, and everybody was like, oh my god, I love Kate Bush. Now, I've always loved Kate Bush. She's always been fabulous, wonderful, great experimental, like very artsy, very avant-garde for her time. Even now, like, you look back at what she was doing and you think, oh my god, how does somebody that creative, that unusual, that different become as popular as she did? And I suppose it's just a testament to how much she put into her artistry, how much she put into the music, that somebody as unusual and peculiar as herself, making the music that she did, was able to become as popular as she was. I mean, there's not many people more mainstream when it comes to this sort of music than Kate Bush. Not my favourite Kate Bush album. I actually have to think about what my favourite one is, but it's not Hands of Love, but it was for a good price at my local record store, so I had to grab it because it's a classic, you know, it's a brilliant record, and I'm very pleased to still own this now. Okay, moving on. I am a bit of a Disney kind of guy, as you can probably tell from the various things up there. Donald Duck obviously being numero uno. But this is not a good film, okay? Let me just preface this by saying that the record I'm about to show you is not from a good film. In fact, it's mostly from a largely terrible film, which is redeemed by its lead character of Elliot. It's Pete's Dragon, the official soundtrack. Now, like I say, this is not one of Disney's finest moments, shall we put it, in terms of quality of movie. It was from a strange era in the company's sort of like production style, the late 70s, where, I don't know, they were doing things and I wasn't really vibing with things. The soundtrack is mostly forgettable, I'm not going to lie. There's not really any big songs on it. There's quite a few songs on it, don't get me wrong, but none of them really stick the landing. They're all just kind of there, you know? But I love Elliot. He's a very cute character design. Always been a big fan of him. Loved him as a kid. Love him today. Got like a big figurine down there, which I might show at the end of the video if I can be bothered getting up and doing more editing, but, you know. So big fan, and I especially love the demented and deranged expressions of some of the people on this record. Like, she's all like, oh. He's a bit like, little guy. He was like, ah. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the expressions on the front here, but I just saw it. It was fun. I've added it to the collection because I kind of do want to eventually get all of the various soundtracks of Disney's classics, very much used loosely in terms of describing Pete's Dragon. The remake's actually pretty good. If you've never seen the live-action remake, and I normally spit on those things, but the live-action remake is actually relevant, and I recommend checking that one out. And maybe if you're curious, having a look at the 77 film, but it's not good. Just don't go into it with any expectations, because it's not a good film. It's not. Neither is the soundtrack any good, but I bought it anyway. Ugh. Okay, moving on to things that are good. It's Deaf Heaven and Sunbather, which turned 10 years old last year, and this is the, God, when was this reissued? It might have been like a 2017 reissue, I think, maybe something like that. Either which way, this is a lovely version of the record, because we've got these fabulous different colour variants. So one disc is this sort of very fancy sort of, I don't know, bone and gold, I suppose you'd call that, something like that, maybe. I don't know. It looks very, very nice, however you spin it. Lovely looking piece of kit. And then the other LP, I believe, is sort of like a pink and white, I think it was. We'll find out in a second. Yeah, it's like this pink and white kind of thing. Very, very gorgeous looking. Big fan of this record. This is very much the album which really kind of switched me on to black metal for a lot of, for the most part. I know a lot of other people weren't really a big fan of the genre until they heard Sunbather and they realised what kind of stuff this music is capable of. I love it. I know it gets a lot of detractors, people saying, oh, it's hipster black metal, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my god, shut up. It's a good record. Leave it alone. It's aged extremely well. It's as brilliant today as it was 11 years ago. Fabulous album. If you've not heard it, please do check it out with an open mind. It might turn you on to black metal. If it doesn't, it doesn't, that's fine. But I would say give it a go, because it's an extraordinary recording and I love it so much. Okay, looking at some of the releases that I picked up last year, late last year, it's Earthside's Let the Truth Speak, which, for my money, is easily one of the best albums of last year. Phenomenal record, phenomenal recording, and I believe it comes on a fancy coloured vinyl again. It is this, oh yeah, there we go. This fabulous looking translucent red. Very nice. Same on both LPs, but it's a great record. I obviously reviewed this one in full last year. Gave it a very, very glowing commendation, and I stand by that. It is one of the most phenomenal works of last year. If you've not listened to Earthside's Let the Truth Speak, I would thoroughly recommend that you do so. It's as glorious as the cover art might suggest. Very big fan. Love this one. Okay, again, continuing on great records from 2023, we have got This Heathen Land, A Journey into Occult Albion by Green Lung, which is one of my favourite album arts of like the last quite some time. I love how it's like this faux penguin branded book sort of thing. I don't know if they get them in the US, but in the UK we get these sort of like weird books like Penguin brand, where they're laid out like this. They're like sort of factual books kind of stuff. And they've done like a really fun job on that. But I like this LP a lot because not only is it a funky colour, think it was like green, which is appropriate considering. Yeah, this funky kind of like, ooh, really nice looking green LP. It comes with a bit of some gubbins alongside it as well within the gatefold sleeve. I mean, inside you've got like Stonehenge or something like that in the band there, which is really, really cool. But what really sells it for me, what I really found very, very cool about this, you don't get this a lot on this sort of thing, is you get this like almost school notebook style insert here, like with like, you know, name, this, even that subject, and it's just laid out like a kid's notebook, like scrapbook with like sellotape and sticky notes. Look at this, all the lyrics and everything written like that. I just think that's a really neat detail. What I love the most is it comes with this little map, like a pocket map of this heathen land, like a little tourist map that you find at like a little cottage, like an Airbnb or whatever in the middle of the woods. But it's got like the creases. Those aren't actually real creases. Those are like directly printed on. This is a smooth piece of paper. It's just made to look like it's creased, which I think is a very adorable detail. And you got like tour of the tours, visit Ryhope Wood, descend into history at Pallinghurst Barrow Visitors Centre. I love it. I think it's such a fun little attention to detail, and really does. You know, this is why I like physical media, like getting stuff like this. You don't get this with digital. I mean, come on, this is cool. I love this sort of stuff. More of this sort of stuff, please, bands. If you're out there and you think to yourself, how can I make my physical media more appealing than some guy just streaming my stuff on Spotify? Give people a reason, you know? Give them a bit more to expect from the physical media. Because this sort of stuff, I live for this sort of stuff. This is amazing, you know? Okay, we're going back to some more classic stuff now. We've got Jethro Tull's Heavy Horses. Big fan of this one. Obviously, the classics from Jethro Tull, like Thick as a Brick, Aqualung, Passion Play, blah, blah, blah. Wonderful stuff. But for me, honestly, Heavy Horses is one of my favourite records from them. I just think it's a fantastic piece of work. There's so many little tracks on here. You know, there's no like big, like 20-minute plus epics or anything like that, but there are so many great bangers on this one. I remember the first time I heard Acres Wild, I was like, oh yeah, this is a great tune. Really, really fun stuff. Love a bit of this record. Not the biggest Jethro Tull fan in the whole wide universe. I am quite select with the records of theirs that I do enjoy, because like stuff like Under Wraps and stuff like that is like, oh my god, what is going on? But when they hit really, really hard for me, and Heavy Horses is a big, big hitter for me. Love this record. Very pleased to have got this one. Right, when it comes to completing collections, whilst this is not a complete collection, I have now at least finished my Elton John collection, or at least the stuff that I care about from Elton John, which is obviously the late 60s to mid to late 70s sort of stuff they put out. And, you know, 80s Elton John was... It was a thing. Yeah. Reggie, you have a lot to talk about when it comes to your 80s output, but I'm sure you know that already. But no, I've been looking to get a decent copy of Madman Across the Water for quite some time now. Every time I've looked to try and get it, it's always been like at a price that I've not been willing to pay, like 25, 30 quid sort of thing for like a used record. But it's got this really nice little thing going on with the lyrics on the inside, which is very, very cool. And everything's made to look like denim and stuff like that. But it's a fantastic album. It is so good. I mean, obviously everybody knows Tiny Dancer off of this one, but it's one of those ones where, once again, Elton John's deep cuts from his studio records are worth the time investment, and Madman Across the Water, I would say, from start to finish, is definitely one of his strongest records, and I cannot recommend enough that you give it a go if you've not listened to the whole LP before. Love this one. Right, classics once again. We have got... Yes, it's Led Zeppelin 4. Yeah, I know, Stairway, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Again, I picked this one up from my local record fair this weekend just gone by, because I got a really good price for it, you know? And I realised I don't actually have this one in my collection yet. So what I find quite interesting about this one, though, is that the inner sleeve, the only lyrics that we come with is just Stairway. It just comes with Stairway's lyrics on this, nothing else, you know? Everything else is like, oh, whatever. But it's beautifully presented, you know? The font choice is beautiful. I absolutely love that. I think it looks fantastic. Feels real, like, sort of oldie Englandy kind of thing. I really, really love it. And it feels like, you know, this is the sort of thing that I kind of want to frame. Like these lyrics, put these in a frame and put these up somewhere, just because I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, it's a classic record. There's not a single Duff song on this album. It's not my favourite Zeppelin. That would probably go to, I don't know, maybe Physical Graffiti, Houses of the Holy, or Led Zeppelin 2. I think I prefer all of those in general to Led Zeppelin 4, which it's truthfully a tiny bit overrated, but I think everybody just jumps on the whole stairway thing and just calls it their best because it's popular to do so. But I think if I had to give like a what is Rhyme Signature's favourite Led Zeppelin record, I think Physical Graffiti. Yeah, we're going to go with that. But no, 4 is amazing. Still love it. Very pleased to have it. Cracking good record. Okay, next up, I had to get it. There's no way I wasn't going to get it. It's my favourite album of last year. It's Moon Safari's Himmelbacken Volume 2. We love Himmelbacken Volume 2. We do. Fabulous, wonderful, incredible record. Absolutely delighted with it. It's so good. There's nothing that I can say now that I haven't already said about it in my like 18-minute long review. I mean, how the hell did I spend 18 minutes talking about an album? I have no idea. But somehow I did. And I just had to have it. There's no way I wasn't going to have this. I try and make an effort to make sure I get at least my top 5 of the year in physical format every year. Sometimes financial constraints get in the way or whatever, but I do try to make an effort, you know? But I had to make sure I had this one on an LP because it's such an affecting record. It's so good. I still absolutely love it. I still stand by this being my favourite record of last year. And honestly, it's one of my favourite records of the 2020s so far. I regularly listen to this one still. Mostly because I just love Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse so much. It's such an incredible song. But everything on this, every single moment on this album is just absolutely incredible to me. And I'm so in love with this. Hoping they repress the rest of their discography on vinyl so I can get it all. I want to get Blomljud. I want to get Volume 1. I want to get Lover's End. I want it all. I want it all on vinyl so I can complete that collection and be really pleased about that. But yeah, Himmelbacken Volume 2. Best album 2023. Now belongs in my house. Oh yes. Okay, we've had Led Zeppelin's 4, so let's go for another 4. With Toto. Oh yeah, Toto's 4. Yeah, I grabbed this one on a bit of a whim. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I don't listen to a lot of Toto outside of the hits, you know, which is obviously, I mean, this has got both Rosanna and Africa on it, so bookending the album, which is amazing, by the way. But I gave this one a spin the other day, and I was quite pleasantly surprised by how good everything in between was as well. So it's very much a case of I was suckered in by the low price of this. It was like £5 or £6, I think it was. I didn't pay a lot for this. But it's got the 2 big songs that I absolutely love by Toto on there. But I loved everything else that I heard on this as well. So I might actually start digging back into their back catalogue, seeing if there's anything else within there to show that they are more than just a hits band. Maybe they will become my next deep dive experiment and I can figure out what else of the discography absolutely kicks ass. But fun record, loved it, great cover art, really fun. And of course, we bless the rains down in Africa. Right, we are approaching the end now. We've got 2 more to talk about. So we have got what is quite easily one of my favourite, if not my favourite, movie soundtracks of all time, the Gladiator soundtrack by Hans Zimmer and Lisa Gerrard. So I can remember vividly going to see this movie like back in 2000, I think it was, when I was a sort of mid-teens kind of guy. And at the time, I wasn't really into historical movies and stuff like that. This was very much my brother wanted to go and see it so bad because he was really into like the Roman stuff at the time. I'm assuming he still is. And I was like, I was a bit mid on the idea of going to go and see this movie. I was a bit like, but you know, we went as a family, whatever. Family movie day. It was nice. I walked away from that movie with my jaw dropped, you know. It was absolutely astonishing. I loved this movie so much. This is still a top 10 movie for me of all time. But the soundtrack is what really took me away from it. It was absolutely unbelievable. And there is so much that Hans Zimmer learned from doing the soundtrack that you can hear in later things that he's done. Like when he took over from Klaus Badelt in terms of the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, you can feel elements of the Gladiator soundtrack in the subsequent Pirates of the Caribbean films. The DNA is there, and it all seems to come from this. This is such a good soundtrack. Like, opening up pretty much with the 10-minute The Battle, that is so incredible, and then Barbarian Horde later on, which then reprises parts of the battle as well. And then, of course, the Now We Are Free and Honour Him at the end, you know, oh my god, heartstrings pulled every single time. Incredible soundtrack, absolutely one of the best ever. In fact, I might actually do a video of that later, actually. Maybe my top 10 movie soundtracks of all time. That'd be kind of fun. I mean, this is maybe a spoiler, having this like here, me talking so nicely about it, but I might be bluffing, you know? This might not be my favourite of all time. Ha ha ha, I got you fooled. No, I think it is, but if you've not listened to the soundtrack or watched the movie, please do. I don't know why they're making a sequel. I wish they weren't. I really, really don't understand what Ridley Scott is doing these days. It just feels like he's just making movies for funsies, and they've not been great. He's got a bit of a spotty track record when it comes to his directorial stuff. When he hits, oh boy does he hit, but and there's kind of a few misses, you know, like Alien Covenant. It's not good. It's not good. No, no, no. But yeah, this is great. Check it out if you haven't heard it already. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And last, but by no means least, kids, it is Yes's Fragile. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I have been looking to get a copy of this one for a while as well. Much like Madman Across the Water, I've been trying to find this one for a decent price for quite some time. Most places I've found are selling it for like 35 or 40 quid, and I'm just like, I ain't spending that much on a vinyl record. It's least of all one which is like this old. But I was able to get this for like, I think it was £20, I think. And it's in really, really good nick, you know, perfectly good quality. Sleeves not really even that badly damaged. There's a tiny bit of sun bleaching, I think, on the side there. But, you know, whatever, I can forgive it. It's fine. This is an incredible record, honestly. Like, everybody goes, oh, Close to the Edge this, Close to the Edge that, yada, 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 yada. I love Close to the Edge, of course. Close to the Edge is a classic for a reason, but honestly, I do prefer Fragile. I do prefer the Yes album. I love it. Obviously, Close to the Edge is great, but something about these records just hits me so much harder. And Fragile, I do feel, is one of those albums which really knocked me on my socks the first time I heard it. And this is long before Roundabout was being used as premium meme material on the internet. You know, this is a long time before that. Everything on this is fantastic. It's a brilliant album. I own it in 3 different formats now, I think. I've got it on vinyl, I've got it like on a really old CD, and I've got like a 2011, I think, maybe reissue, where it's got a whole bunch of bonus material on it as well. So I wanted to own it on vinyl, you know? I really wanted to own it on vinyl, and I'm super, super pleased that I do now, because I'm pretty sure I have now completed my Yes collection as well, or at least the albums that I care about owning on by Yes. Because for me, I'm not a big fan of their mid-ear discography, you know. Tomato onwards, basically. I was like, didn't really care much for it. Kind of an old school kind of guy when it comes to Yes. Not that I haven't enjoyed their more recent output, at least the one that came out last year. Never ended up getting around to reviewing it, but I listened to it a whole bunch and I really, really enjoyed it. So, I don't know. Maybe we've got another couple of records left out of Yes, who knows. But I'll be keeping my eye on whatever they do next. Always enjoy the classics, and super, super pleased to have a copy of this one now as well. Okay, and now that pretty much wraps it up for the vinyl that I've been purchasing over the last few months. Like I say, these updates are going to be less and less frequent. I do have a lot of responsibilities and obligations now, being a homeowner, which obviously comes with all the excitement and thrills and spills and terror whenever you hear something in the middle of the night that you're not used to, like, oh god, the pipes are exploding, or whatever. It's been slowly learning the noises that the house makes has been quite an interesting journey. And being paranoid about literally everything. It's like, oh no, is that dark spot there before? And it turns out it's just like the shadow or something, and not like an enormous patch of damp like you once thought it was. But it's fine. But yeah, hopefully we'll have another one of these videos before too long. Might start expanding it out to the CD stuff that I'm buying as well, because frankly, with the price of new vinyl being like 40 quid for a new vinyl, I'm like, that's a lot of money. Like, I want to buy the new Aristocrats album, Duck, and I really want to get it on vinyl because of the 12-inch cover, because it's basically, like, custom made for me. Like, I love it so much. But I'm like, that's £40 plus postage, and I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of money to be spending on one record. It depends how weak I feel about that, though. I might get it. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking to be getting a lot more CDs in the near future, so I might start showing off the CDs I've been buying, because I actually have bought some of those recently as well. But this is a vinyl update. I'm not going to show off the CDs here. I might show off some of my CD collection at another point. I've got quite a lot of CDs. I can see them over there. I'm just not staring at the camera because I'm staring at the CDs in the middle distance. Yeah, if people want to see it, I might pick out some of my more interesting CDs and show those off so you can see what kind of stuff I've got going on there. I've got like some 200 plus, I think, over there. I'm not sure I'd have to count them. It's a lot. So I might do that at some point there. But yeah. If you have made it this far, guys, thank you so very, very much for watching. Hope you really did enjoy this video. Hopefully I'll see you again at the next one. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures extremely, extremely odd.